Hello everyone, so we'll just wait a couple of more minutes to ensure that everyone's logged on to the webinar. First of all, thank you for joining me today for this webinar on how to start your internet radio station. My name is Hannah and I'm Country Manager here at Radio King. If you have any feedback or general comments to make about the webinar, you can always tweet us at Radio King. This webinar will probably last around 40 minutes, so depending on how we're doing for time, we should have around 5 or 10 minutes at the end for any questions. Although if there's anything in particular that you need clarifying during the webinar, don't hesitate to leave me a message in the chat. Right, now that we've got a good number of people watching, we're ready to go. So before we get started, how well do you actually know Radio King? Radio King is a company that essentially allows you to create and manage your own internet radio station. As you can see, there are already more than 2,000 radio stations that already trust us in over 110 different countries. If you're interested in listening to any of these awesome stations that are currently on the screen, I highly recommend that you check them out via our online listening platform. So one of the key points that I want to get across is that Radio King really is for everyone. Whether you're an FM or DAB station, or you're just starting out, you can create your online stream with us. The great thing is, as well as stream hosting, we offer other various digital solutions to help develop your radio project, from responsive websites and powerful players to mobile apps available on Android that come with push notifications, not to mention compatibility with Android TV. And more recently, we've even branched out into car dashboards with Android Auto. So if you're interested in any of our other services, simply leave me a message in the chat and I'll get back to you with more information at the end of the webinar. But most importantly, here at Radio King, we have one clear vision in mind, that we create the radio of tomorrow. In the future, we envisage a vast majority of radio listening to take place via the internet. As you can see today, internet is on the rise with more than 3.8 billion internet users worldwide. The internet has changed our way of consuming music. It's the perfect opportunity to reach out to a huge audience, and not just necessarily in your own country, but across the entire world. Gone are the days of one-way radio. We can now experience immediate two-way interaction between a radio station and its listeners. With more and more people turning towards other audio solutions, take for instance Norway switching off their FM last year and going digital, we allow you to create your radio station on the internet and take advantage of this digital media. So if you're currently watching this webinar, you probably already have some kind of interest in creating your own internet radio station. If not, no worries, I have a couple of fun facts and figures up my sleeve to show you as to why creating your own online radio station today is actually a really great idea. Well, once again, Edison Research and Triton Digital released their annual study of the infinite dial. And last year, according to their study, a whopping 95% of 12 to 24-year-olds own a smartphone, as well as 60% of adults aged 55 and over. Moreover, an estimated 170 million, which is around 61% of the US population, have already listened to online radio in the last month. So it's clear that internet radio usage is a frequent and regular activity for the majority of Americans. On top of that, there's every reason to believe that as more and more people own a smartphone, the likelihood of them listening to online radio significantly increases. However, sometimes the most difficult thing can be knowing what type of radio station to create. The most important thing to remember is that anyone can create a radio station. Here at Radio King, we don't have a stereotype of our clients as they come from a multitude of backgrounds, from adding a musical atmosphere in your bars and cafes to doing live interviews from a well-known festival or engaging in live debate at university. For the year that I've been here at Radio King, I can confirm that there are a number of ways to use our services. And if your idea isn't already on the screen, even better. The best advice would be to remember that the more niche you make your radio station, the larger an audience size you're bound to attract. Think about your station branding. What type of content are you going to broadcast on your station? Who are you going to target in terms of audience? And what types of social media might you use to boost your online visibility? Once again, lots of articles on our blog to help you out with that, so I'd be more than happy to point you in the right direction at the end of our webinar. The great thing is Radio King has all the technology necessary to help you get your radio station up and running, in which case you're probably wondering, how exactly does Radio King work? Well, it's far from complicated. There are 3 main stages when you set up an online radio station with us. You simply go about your business, scheduling tracks, playlists, programs, etc. on the Radio Manager, which I'll show you in a bit. Our technical team do a bit of the magic and take care of things in the virtual cloud. And then providing that you have internet connection, anyone will be able to tune in to your radio station via your URL link or landing page and be in awe of what a wonderful radio presenter you are. However, to get started, I must need some sort of equipment. How much am I going to need to splash out on all of this, I hear you cry? Well, fear not. To get started, all you really need is a bog standard computer or laptop with internet connection. Internet connection is the big word here, folks. It's that simple. Obviously, a mic and a pair of headphones could come in handy if you plan on going live, but these days, most laptops already come with a built-in mic. In any case, we've got some excellent articles on our blog on how to set up your home studio, along with how to choose the perfect mic or pair of headphones if you're aiming for a slightly more professional radio station. So if you'd like me to send you the link to those articles, let me know via the chat and I will get them sent over to you after the webinar. So now that we've gone through all the formalities, how do I get started? Well, the easiest way of explaining this is to show you how the demo works. So as you can see, I've already logged into my Radio King account. If you don't already have one, you'll need to sign up. So if we get started by clicking on Try It for free for 7 days. Right, so we're ready to start the adventure. So I've decided to name my radio station Radio Webinar. And then if I type in a slogan, although you can obviously let your imagination run wild and choose your preferred station name and your own slogan. And then click on Next Step. So in the next step, you'll need to finalise where you'll be broadcasting from so that you can schedule the elements according to your time zone. You'll now need to add a logo. You can see that you've got the option to add your very own logo, or you can choose from one of the samples below here. So let's go with one of the little green mics. Don't forget, you can always classify your station using a maximum of 3 genres in order to make it easier for people to find your radio station on our listening platform. So for example, acoustic blues, alternative country, and electro, for example. Lastly, you can add in your social media links for Facebook and perhaps your website. If you don't already have these set up, no worries, you can always modify them later. So for now, simply click on Skip this step. And there you have it. You're now just about ready to get started. So let's now head over to the Radio Manager so that I can give you a quick tour of what's available. So as you can see, we've arrived in the Radio Manager's library, and there really are just 2 simple steps when it comes to getting your internet radio station started. Simply click on Add Music to upload your music. And then click on Start My Radio Station. And so here you can see our little cat starting your radio station. And I can even listen to my radio station. On top of that, whilst your other music is still uploading, you can easily hide the upload progress bar and you're free to roam around the Radio Manager and do as you please. So heading back to the library, let's take a look at how to create a playlist. So playlists are great because they make it a lot quicker and easier to organise your daily programmes. Simply click on the plus button here next to the playlist module, and you'll then be invited to create a manual or dynamic playlist. So let's go with the manual one for now. We'll call it morning, and we'll give it a nice blue colour and click on save. You'll see that my morning playlist has now appeared on the left-hand side here, and you simply need to select your tracks and drag and drop them into your playlist. If we click on the morning playlist itself, you'll be able to see a quick overview of the tracks inside. I can even like specific tracks so that they appear in my favourites by clicking on the star button here. So let me show you again very quickly just how easy it is to create another playlist. So let's call it afternoon. So as you can see, it really is that simple. So now that we've mastered the manual playlist, let's take a look at the dynamic playlist. Dynamic playlists are incredibly useful because when you're a bit short for time or when you can't be bothered to select individual tracks, they simply speed up the process for you. So for example, if we click on dynamic playlist, we'll call it Charlie Simpson. And then we need to select our dynamic criteria. In this case, for example, artist contains Simpson. Click on save. So as you can see, you will see all my tracks containing Simpson, regardless of the year, have now been uploaded into my Charlie Simpson dynamic playlist. On top of that, what's really cool is when you upload any new tracks that meet the criteria of your dynamic playlist, they'll automatically be added to your playlist as well. So now that things are getting a bit fancy, here's the next party trick. If I click on the 3 vertical dots next to a track, for example, and click on Edit Mix Points, so in fact, the Radio Manager allows you to pinpoint the exact moment that you want a track to start, end, fade in, and fade out. Although don't worry too much if you're feeling a bit lost, sequence points are automatically calculated for you by the wonderful Radio Manager. But for example, you simply need to click on the point, click on start, and you'll see that it's cut my track for me. So moving on, if we cancel that, and if we head over to the Scheduler tab, I can show you guys just how easy and straightforward it is to create a program. But what exactly is the point of creating a program, you might ask? Well, the Programs module on the Radio Manager is essentially like a broadcast clock, allowing you to create a set and structured template for your radio station that can easily be repeated in your planning when necessary. So if we start off by clicking on Add a Program, let's call it the Morning Show and give it a yellow colour. If you look to the right, you'll see the 3 playlists that I created earlier. I simply need to drag and drop them onto the Programs module. And so the great thing is you can decide on how you want to start and end your program and even the weightings of specific genres. So for example, let's take the morning playlist. And what's great is I can actually specify the number of tracks that I want to be played from the playlist. So let's go with 7, for example, in sequential order, followed by my Charlie Simpson playlist, and we'll take 4 tracks from that. So if I then click on preview my program down here, I can clearly see that my program is going to be composed of 7 sequential tracks from my morning playlist, followed by 4 tracks from my Charlie Simpson playlist. So to clarify, my morning show will run on a loop based on the duration that I've assigned it on my planning. So the breaks module pretty much works in the same way, and it's always useful for scheduling your hourly breaks, jingles, adverts, and any other audio interventions. So let's now check out the planning tab over here, which basically works as a calendar. You can use the module to plan your programs and playlists for a specific day, date, and time. So let's skip ahead to next week. I can easily take my Charlie Simpson playlist, for example, and we're going to drag it onto next Monday's planning for 3 a.m. Or if you're not in the mood for dragging and dropping and you have a program that you want to air on a regular basis, I can click on my program, for example, the morning show, and I can choose the time and date at which I'd like it to air. So, for example, let's say that I want it to start at 9 until 10 as of next week. And then if I click on repeat, I want it to repeat every day until the end of next week. So until the Friday. And click on add. So if we scroll down to 10 a.m, you can see that from between 9 and 10 a.m, I've got my morning show scheduled for an entire week. And if I wanted, I could actually schedule it for the next 6 months. I can also modify the broadcast time by dragging the bottom of the program down to the right time slot. So for example, I could drag it down to, I could drag the bottom of the playlist down to 11 a.m. And only for this occurrence, for example. So now you can see my morning show has been scheduled from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on the Monday and 9 till 10 a.m. on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday of next week. It's also incredibly easy to delete a single program by right-clicking. I can delete that. Or if I wanted, I could right-click and delete all. So once again, just to show you how easy it is, I'm going to click on my afternoon playlist and we'll schedule it for the same time as well next week from 3 p.m. all the way to 6 p.m. every day until the end of next week. And you can see that my afternoon playlist has been scheduled. So if we then head over to the daily generation module, which is over here, we can regenerate next Monday's lineup. So for example, if we head over to next Monday and click on generate planning. So if we scroll over to 3 a.m, normally we'll get there in the end. And there we were. You'll see that my Charlie Simpson playlist is indeed scheduled for 3 a.m. The daily generation module essentially programs fillers or tracks that have already been uploaded to your music library for moments when nothing has been scheduled. But what if, I hear you say, you'd like to be able to precisely define your radio station's lineup? Well, that's no issue at all. You can easily add as well as delete tracks from your programming in just a couple of clicks. For example, if we head over to the search button and we look for Dua Lipa, for example, I can easily drag and drop in her track onto the planning. However, rest assured that as soon as you've generated your first day, daily generation is automatically carried out every day at midnight for the following day. But remember, if you make any changes to your planning, programs, breaks, or even add new music to your library, you'll need to regenerate your day if you want your changes to be taken into account for a day that has already been generated. So for the sake of making things a little bit more exciting, I've taken a couple of screenshots of a client's radio station so that you can see just how impressive the statistics module is. So at the time, this particular radio station had 212 listeners tuned in, the majority in Europe. You can even pinpoint the nearest city from which people were listening in from, which is pretty cool. You'll also be able to view key information such as the number of people listening to your radio station, the length of their listening sessions, and where in the world exactly they're listening from. Under the Music tab, you'll also be able to view the top-rated tracks of your listeners, which is always helpful when it comes to understanding their music tastes. On top of that, you'll also be able to download a track history report should you need to provide one to your music licensing authorities. So heading back to our actual demo, I know it's not always that simple when it comes to live broadcasting, and that's why we've developed our most recent live broadcasting software, Studio King. So if we head over to the Live tab here, you'll see that you're now able to download our new software, Studio King, onto your computer, whether you're using Windows or Mac. So here's a quick look at what the Studio King interface actually looks like. Not only has Studio King been specifically developed for Radio King servers, but it's also incredibly easy to find all your music, pre-listen to your tracks, and create smooth transitions and speak live on air. Do keep in mind that Studio King is still in beta form, so you can expect to see a couple of new features in the next update. We obviously don't have enough time to go through how to use Studio King in this webinar, but in case you're interested, we've got a quick little video and various tutorials on how to get started with the software. Once again, simply drop me a message in the chat and I'll send you the link at the end of the webinar. At the same time, if you'd prefer to use your own broadcasting software, don't panic, that's also possible. If you look over here, you'll see that our technical team have actually put together a couple of different software types that they've already tested and know to be compatible with our services. Let's not forget that there's also the possibility to add multiple administrators and manage their access rights under the DJs tab. Each administrator simply has to create their own free Radio King account so that you can find them on the system. So now let's take a look at our Widgets tab. So widgets are awesome little features. Under the Widgets tab, we actually provide you with your very own listening link. This is the link that you'll be able to provide your listeners in order to tune in to your radio station and also when configuring a player. So speaking of our players, if we click on Player, you'll see our new Pro radio player, which is included with all of our radio offers. So you're free to personalize it in terms of color and size and really make it your own. You're in total control when it comes to modifying the format and the size of the player. So for example, let's give it a nice purple color, for example. We can change the code and you'll see that it's in purple. If I hover over the player, you'll also get a quick idea of what the new voting feature looks like. So our Super Radio Player will indeed pick up artist and track title metadata. However, for tracks without album artwork, we strongly suggest that you provide a default cover in the settings section. Don't forget that you can also integrate your radio player onto your station's Facebook page over here. We've got a very straightforward tutorial on our knowledge base, so if you're wondering how to do that, give me a message and I'll forward it over to you after the webinar. Lastly, there are a couple of other useful widgets to consider, such as top tracks, current track, and broadcast artists. So there you have it. That was my quick run through of how the demo works. Let's get back to the actual webinar. So hopefully the demo has given you a slightly better idea as to the power and reliability of the Radio Manager. To summarize quickly, the Radio Manager allows you to broadcast in two different modes, live and automatic. When we say automatic, we're referring to 24/7 automation, not to mention the fact that you can schedule your elements up to 6 months in advance. Anyone should be able to listen to your stream across the world, as our streams function using port 80. Let's say you're creating a radio station for a school or a bank. Gone are the days of having to worry about those firewalls. For your slightly more demanding listeners, there's now the possibility to broadcast in high quality up to 320 kbps. You won't have any issues in terms of the number of people trying to listen to your station at once, as our streams allow for unlimited simultaneous listeners. And lastly, you can even visualize your audience in real time with powerful statistics, which is great for staying motivated and adapting your content to their needs. So now that you've had a quick tour of the Radio Manager, we'd best check out what we currently propose in terms of our radio offers. At the moment, we have 3 different radio station offers that could be of interest: our Start, Pro and Business. Note that we have monthly and annual subscriptions. So as you can see, all of our packages differ according to the number of monthly listening hours. To clarify, listening hours are the number of total hours for which your radio station can be listened to over the duration of 1 month. In terms of storage, this also differs, but you can always purchase additional space if necessary. So our lowest offer starts at just $24 a month with our annual subscription. I'd like to point out that the start offer really is a great plan for anyone who's new to the radio scene. In any case, you can always upgrade to the next offer when you feel like it or when you start to gain an even larger audience. If you're looking to meet the needs of slightly more demanding listeners, you may want to consider the Pro and Business offers that now come with additional streams allowing you to broadcast at a low or high bit rate up to 192 kbps for the Pro or 256 or 320 kbps for the Business offer. What's really exciting is that our business offer now comes with a Start Android app, allowing you to be just that more visible and make it even easier for your listeners to tune into your station or even be woken up to your radio station with the alarm clock. So in case you wanted to view our prices in pounds, for example, you've got £16, £32, £65 with an annual subscription per month. Or €19, €39, €79. Once again, with an annual subscription, that's the price per month. Right, so it looks like we've got a couple of more minutes left till the end of the webinar. Now is the moment to ask if anyone has any questions. Do let me know and I'll do my best to answer. Okay, so first question from Michael. Can I earn money from my radio station? Yes, you can. And there are, in fact, a number of different ways to monetize your radio station or your radio project, from creating partnerships and including in-stream advertising to setting up an iTunes affiliate account. We've actually got a nice little article that mentions some of these things in more detail, so I'll make sure to forward that on to you at the end of the webinar. So there's another question from Holly. What is the difference between Air King and Studio King? Yeah, so Studio King is obviously our latest live broadcasting software, which is a lot more stable in comparison to Air King. And there are lots of various new features and more which are still to come in the next update. And overall, I guess Studio King should just be a lot more pleasant to use technically as well as aesthetically. And then we have Sean who's asking, can you send the link to another person? Obviously, it's incredibly important to be able to share your radio station. So yes, you can indeed. As I mentioned earlier, we provide you with a URL for your radio station that you can provide your listeners with, not to mention the URL of your radio page on our listening platform. Otherwise, you might also choose to add your radio station to various other directories such as Streamer or TuneIn. Once again, let me know. I'll give you the relevant article. Okay, we've got one last quick question from Sophie. Could you clarify listening hours? Yeah, so, I mean, put simply, you might broadcast for 24 hours a day, for example, but if two people in separate locations each spend 1 hour listening to your station out of an allowance of 20,000 hours because you're on the start offer, you'll have used up 2 hours of your total monthly allowance. Rest assured that we do send you an email when your radio station reaches 90% of its listening capacity. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that our time is up. Thank you again for watching How to Start Your Internet Radio Station. It's been a pleasure guiding you through this webinar and hopefully catch you around in the next one. Don't hesitate to tweet us via our Twitter account at Radio King, and should you have any more questions, don't hesitate to email me at hannah@radioking.com. Bye for now.